Hello everyone, and welcome to another mini sky tonight. So I have a couple of viewers that asked me to talk about the moon Titan and what's so fascinating about it and why we sent a probe to it and to talk about some of the details of this unique moon. In fact, as you can see from the title of my presentation, it's called Titan, the second moon to have been visited. And yes, we did land on this moon with a probe, and yes, we did go to our moon. So throwing those conspiracy theories far out the window. So now let's get into this amazing moon known as Titan. It was first discovered by Cassini-Huygens in 1655. He and his brother heard accounts of Galileo discovering the moons around Jupiter, and he wanted to discover some of his moons and some unique features of other planets as well. So in 1655, he and his brother built their own large telescope by reading accounts of what Galileo did, and he discovered some of the unique features around Saturn, hence why the Huygens Probe was named after him. And he was the first one to discover the moon Titan, but he didn't call it Titan back then. He called it Saturni Luna, which literally means Saturn's moon. I know, such an original name. But it wasn't until much later that Giovanni Cassini discovered four moons later on between 1683 and 1694. Around about that time, he discovered four other moons of Saturn, and he doubly named Titan as Saturn IV. I know, you think they would name them such unique, wonderful names, but no, they just labeled them as eh. But fortunately, the proper name for Titan was actually given by John Herschel, who discovered it after he discovered a few more moons, and he named it after the Titans. The reason being why Titan is called Titan is because of the name of the Titans in Greek mythology. Because Kronos, who was the Greek god, and then Saturn, which is now the Roman god, were the brothers and sisters of the Titans, like Mimas and Celadus and a few other major Titans. So hence why many of the moons around Saturn are named after the different Titans in Greek and Roman mythology. So Titan's name was given because they were kind of related to the sun, Saturn, the Roman god of time. So that's where it gets its unique name. So ever since Cassini-Huygens discovery, what do we know? Well, from sending a couple of probes out into space, Voyager 1 and of course the Cassini spacecraft, we have discovered that it is the second largest moon in the solar system. In fact, it's double the size of our own moon, as you can see in this diagram here. It's really large for a good-sized moon, but it's the only moon in our solar system to have an atmosphere. And that's what intrigues astronomers a lot, is because of all the moons around different planets, Titan is the one that has a kind of relatively thick atmosphere, and we were kind of intrigued by it. It took our definition of what it takes to have an atmosphere and turn it on its head. Normally we thought, oh, you had to be roughly about the size of Mars in order to barely contain an atmosphere of some kind, but this turned it completely on its head. Now, Saturn's moon orbits once every 16 days around Saturn. So this particular moon is also tidally locked. So basically one side of Titan always faces Saturn. So it has a unique weather pattern as well, because it gets heat on one side and then coldness on the other and so on. And we discovered that from the Voyager spacecraft that it has nitrogen, ethane, methane, and a few other different chemical compounds, but we couldn't really see the surface. And you can kind of see in this image right over here, it's kind of like hazy and cloudy, kind of like Venus. So we needed to do some little more digging. So we knew it had an atmosphere because when Voyager 1 passed by, you can see this light blue haze over top of it and this kind of like smoggy kind of look on it. So that indicated to us it wasn't just like a big, huge dirt ball like Ganymede and a bunch of the other moons around the gas giants. It was actually a moon with an atmosphere. And the way we can tell that it has this kind of unique, complex organic molecules, hence the smoggy look, is light from the sun and high energy particles break apart the N2 and age 4 in Titan's atmosphere, and then those individual atoms then combine together to create the complex organic molecules. So astronomers believed that these were kind of like the early formations of the Earth, similar kind of atmospheres. So that maybe there's indicators of life. So then obviously we had this unique moon that has an atmosphere, that has complex molecules. We wanted to know more. We couldn't just do a simple flyby like the Voyager spacecraft, which their ultimate destination was to leave our solar system completely. So we had to send a spacecraft that was there to stay for a long time. And we created the Cassini-Huygens spacecraft. And it was a phenomenal spacecraft that had 27 diverse different instruments to do different studies. And there was over 100 different scientific programs that were dedicated around the Cassini-Huygens spacecraft in NASA. It arrived in 2004, and it lasted 13 years around Saturn, taking several pictures of the rings, the planet itself, several of its different moons, and much, much more. We got to know Saturn a whole lot better because we were able to send this amazing spacecraft to it. And after those 13 years, when as one NASA astronomer pointed out, he said, the battery started to run out, so we had to give it a farewell goodbye. So they sent it into the planet itself. And it also, if you look over towards the right, that kind of dome shape, that is the Huygens probe. And this was the first probe to land on an unknown surface. We've sent probes to like Mars and things like that where we could see the surface physically using other spacecrafts and other telescopes. This was the first time we sent a probe blind, because that thick atmosphere around Titan made it incredibly difficult for us to know exactly where we're going to land. So we were basically doing this on the fly. But fortunately, because of the unique design of the Huygens Probe plus different sensors and everything, because they prepared for this, they were able to land on the surface of Titan. And they took 37,000 images from the Cassini spacecraft and the Huygens Probe all together to give us a unique view of the planet Saturn. So we went from this fuzzy ball to now looking underneath the surface. It has this unique structure. And it indicates like weather patterns. It shows unique features on the surface that show water flow of some kind and potential. It has some type of liquid water underneath its surface once we started to do some more research. Just by going into Titan's atmosphere, we discovered 17 unique molecules identified in the atmosphere that we normally couldn't detect earlier. We were able to map 43% of its surface, which is a first because we never could be able to see the surface at all. And now we've literally almost have half of it mapped. We noticed that there are 35 unique types of lakes and oceans, but they're not made of water. They're made of hydrocarbons and ethane and methane, which is really unique. And the surface pressure on Titan is about 1.5 times that of Earth. So it's a little heavy, but not too heavy. But here's the kicker. This is why we can't go visit Titan. It's negative 290 degrees below zero. Yikes, that is cold. So that's why you have these hydrocarbon lakes and ethane and methane, because the temperatures are so cold. These molecules that normally would be gas at room temperature for us are now at such cold temperatures, they now turn into a liquid. We also indicate that there's some volcanoes on there, but they're not the normal volcanoes like what we see in, like, for example, Hawaii. They're cryo volcanoes, meaning they spew out ice and water vapor. So the astronomers believe this is what constitutes why Titan has an atmosphere as it does. These volcanoes are spewing out water vapor, which gives it enough materials in the atmosphere, and since they're heavy enough, they coalesce down towards the surface, giving it this kind of smoggy cocoon, as you can think of it, is that way. And because of its unique features of rotating rotates once every 16 days and it revolves once every 16 days, it has a unique weather pattern where the heat and the cold, depending upon what side of Titan is facing the sun, has some types of clouds. It has upper layer clouds and lower layer clouds, similar to that of the gas giants, but not as dramatic. As well as it has some unique structures in terms of its atmosphere that kind of resembles our jet stream, but not greatly because, keep in mind, the molecules are really, really heavy. Also, its unique weather structure allows it to have some type of rain, less than 1 centimeter per year. So very, 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 very dry, but it does rain hydrocarbons. And we notice some surface features that are very similar to Earth. So hence why astronomers are really interested in going to do research on Titan, because it looks very similar to an early Earth. This would basically be stepping back into time for astronomers to see Earth as it was during its early formations. Just to give you a glimpse of it, we also are able to understand some of the composition of the planet, or the moon, forgive me, the moon itself. We notice that it's mostly composed of ice and rock, but it's a mixture of the two. But potentially, because of gravitational pressure, we think that there could be liquid water. So here's a glimpse at some of the images we were able to take. We notice beautiful streams, some of which have hydrocarbon flowing through them, as well as some type of other materials. We also saw lakes and rivers and sand dunes. Yes, sand dunes, hydrocarbon sand dunes, but sand dunes nonetheless. In fact, one astronomer who was seeing some of these images come live from the landing on Titan, he noticed that, wow, it's like seeing the sand dunes in Africa, almost. You also see mountains. So it does have a unique geological structure. And perhaps volcanoes, like for example, here is a unique volcano. So that's possibly where they have those cryo volcanoes coming from. And also craters, but there's very few craters on the surface of Titan, which indicate to astronomers that Titan has a unique type of weathering system. Now, in weathering, I don't mean like the weather that we get every day. I'm talking about like erosion, volcanism, other types of surface features that basically weather away the craters and make them slowly disappear. So we see so many few, indicating that maybe unlike our moon, which has tons of craters, and those craters stay for a long period of time, these craters are eventually started to disappear because of erosion and things of that nature. So is there more? Can we learn more about Titan? Like, what are those surface features, and can we see more of it? Because we only got 45% of it. Where is the ethane that we were detecting, and where's the majority of the methane? And where is it coming from? If so, could there be lava there other than cryovolcanism? Could we have some type of unique geological tectonic structure underneath the surface? Could we find more things like amino acids and maybe potentially simple life form? We don't know. It requires us to send more explorers out towards Titan in order to be able to understand what's going on. Because keep in mind, this probe just landed and just took several images and then fizzled out. We need something that stays for a little longer and is able to send a lot more information back and maybe even take samples. So maybe we can send something like a balloon or maybe a drone of some kind, like what they're sending to Mars, to take some further detailed images of the surface, as well as maybe even take some samples. Something like this. This is a proposed mission that we're hoping to send another probe to Titan to do some further reconnaissance of like the mountain range areas, as well as you can kind of see on the bottom of it, to kind of take a little bit of a probe of the surface to take some samples of the surface to do analysis of it. But that's future. Sadly, as we've learned from 2020, you can't always depend upon things going according to plan. There's always something that throws a wrench into the system. So hopefully sometime in the future, we will be able to send something to Titan to do further analysis and to discover more about this unique moon. So I hope you were able to learn a lot more about the moon Titan. And in fact, if you would like to learn some more, there are these wonderful websites right here. I'll leave them in the description as well, that you can do some like interactive models with them and things like that to learn a lot more about it, including the mission of Cassini, as well as some of the other moons around Saturn, and so much more information. The Cassini-Huygens mission was an amazing mission that basically opened up our eyes to what Saturn really is. And I strongly suggest you checking it out. If you have any further questions or comments, leave them down in the comments below. If you have any suggestions for a future idea for a topic, leave it down in the comments as well. Also, parents, if you're looking for some fun activities for your kids to do, futurereadysa.org has an amazing website with tons of activities for your kids that are educational and engages them, and they get digital badges, allowing them to be able to edumacation or edutainment, as I like to call it sometimes, allowing them to basically entertain themselves, but encouraging them to learn. I'll leave a link in the description below because one of the ones that I worked on was known as Astronomy Plus. So there's some fun activities that you can engage with your kids on astronomy. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, never stop learning.